Hi and welcome. It's Alan Palange with ProScript Media. Thanks again for joining me on this video. The topic matter of this particular video are the three elements that must be present to make any sale. Very important. And those three elements are trust, value, and benefit. If one of those elements are missing during the process of your sale, there is a high likelihood that you will not make a sale. So let's dig right in and let's talk about trust. You know, I tell people that most everything in the universe is based on faith. Faith in something. Faith in the US dollar, faith in government, faith in church, faith in something. And a derivative where that comes from is from trust. So if we're processing the cycle of a sale with a client and we're making our presentation, if you're missing that element of trust on the front end, there is a high likelihood that you will not make a sale. So to understand the building blocks to start the process of developing trust with your client, you know, and we all use different techniques. A technique I use, which is quite simple, is I sell through honesty. And not only do I sell through honesty, but I listen to my client. We have an expression, which is God gave you two ears and one mouth, they should be used accordingly. And if my client, I purposely will ask open-ended questions to start a dialogue, and I want my client to begin to communicate with me, to begin to start a dialogue. And one of the things I do to develop my level of trust interaction with that client is I will listen very contently, and I will make sure that I repeat one or two of the elements of what that client had said, and I do that as a building block of trust. What it says to the client is that I care, and that I'm paying attention, and that I'm listening. Another thing to always keep in mind is a client does not care how much you know until they know how much you care. Very, very critical in the process of the sale. The client must know that you have their best interests at heart, and that you want to provide them with a solution to a problem, which I'm going to get into in a moment. So the building blocks of trust are critical, and however you go about developing that trust, it is a component and an element that must be present in the sale. One of the other elements that need to be present in the sale is the benefit and the value that we bring to the table. Now, there's a number of sales techniques that I'm sure we all use, but one of the things that I am always in a habit of doing is while I'm making my presentation, and somewhere at the beginning of my presentation, I am not telling the client how much our service costs. Now, I am telling the client that our service is very affordable, very reasonable, very inexpensive. I will never say that the service is cheap or the product is cheap. That's the kiss of death. But I will indicate that it's highly affordable, very reasonable, very inexpensive. But I'm not telling them the amount. And I do this for a couple of reasons. As I start articulating my case for what the problem is that the client faces, what our solution is to correct that problem they have, somewhere along the line, if I'm making a connection with that client, and if I'm doing my job correctly, they're going to say to me, Alan, what's it cost? The minute I hear a client ask me what my service or product costs, I take that as the initial buying signal or a buying question from the client. What it tells me is that I've made a connection, a real connection with the client. I've teased them enough with the service and the product that we're offering that now they're curious, they have an interest. And if they have an interest, if somebody says to me, Alan, how much is that service? I would say, Joe, let me address that in a minute. Delighted to share with you exactly what this costs. As I mentioned, very inexpensive. And then I'll go on to speak about 2 or 3 elements of the service, how it presents value and benefit. I want to reinforce everything in a snapshot. I want to reinforce some of the elements I've already been through, and then I'll say, Joe, it's X amount for your initial setup fee. You own the mobile website right out of the gate, and the monthly fee is X. The one thing that salespeople will sometimes do is avoid a question. And this also is the kiss of death. If you avoid a question, the customer will take that they cannot trust you. So one thing I highly recommend is if a client is asking you a number of questions, that's great. Each one of those questions was potentially an objection that we would have had to deal with later, and they need to be addressed, and they do need to be addressed. If you skip over it, you skip around it, and you don't address a question, you're probably going to lose some credibility and some trust, and hence probably not make the sale. Now, what do you do if a client asks you a question that you don't know? There is nothing wrong. In fact, I would purposely look for the potential to do this, but there is nothing wrong with saying to a client, Joe, I don't know. It's a darn good question. I'm going to make a phone call. I'll get you the right answer, and then we'll address that question. And what you've done by doing this is you've indicated to them that you're a real person. You may not possess all of the answers to all of the questions, but that they can trust you not to just come up with a flip answer, and that it's important enough to you to answer that question in an accurate fashion, and you're going to take your time to make a phone call to get the answer. You've now added an additional building block on your blocks to trust. Very, very important that while you're going through the initial building phase of developing trust, that the client knows that you're paying attention, the client knows that you care, the client knows that you understand their concerns, and the client knows that if they pose a question to you, it's going to be answered properly, and ultimately it will be answered in a timely fashion. So the trust element of what we're doing is paramount in making the sale. Now, one of the other elements that we're bringing into this equation is, what is the problem? Because at the end of the day, if I don't establish what the problem is with that client, then why would they want to buy, and how could they ever find value in a solution I bring to the table? So really, what is the problem? The problem is a number of things. The first problem is Google has a completely separate platform search engine when you're searching from a mobile device. Google realizes that everybody has gone from their desktop to some form of mobility. Now, that mobility may be on your cell phone, it may be on your tablet, but everybody is mobile. And I tell people, think of your own habit, think of your kid's habit, your friend's habit. How many times have you gone to a restaurant and everybody whips out their smartphone and they're all doing their own thing, which is a whole other story, by the way. But everybody is mobile, and that's something that your client needs to understand. So Google understands it. The top 500 companies in the United States each have mobile websites. But 98% of all other businesses, small to medium businesses, do not have a mobile website. 98%. And don't fall into the trap where a client says to you, I have a mobile website. Really? What they're maybe talking about is their web developer mobilized their traditional website, as you've heard me say before, by shrinking it down and making it fit on your smartphone. So what we've done is we've exacerbated the problem. We've taken what was a website meant to be viewed on a desktop. We've now shrunk it down. It's even more difficult to see. It's more difficult to navigate. That is not a mobile website. A mobile website will fit perfectly on one's cell phone. And I explain to people the way you need to think about a mobile website, and I'm going to give you an example in a moment. The way you need to think about a mobile website is a far different experience than how we would think about a traditional website. And I'll give you an example. If I'm out somewhere and I'm searching for a restaurant, and I click on a link and it brings me to the proprietor's restaurant, you know, there's certain things that I'm looking for straight away. I'm probably looking for their location, I'm looking for their phone number, and I very well may be looking to take a look at their menu online, which still amazes me. Most restaurants don't have a menu online. Unbelievable in 2013. So now I bring up their normal website on my smartphone, and I've got to expand the screen, scroll left to right, and I've now got to do work to find what really should come to me easily. So part of the problem is aggravating your potential client, the client of the vendor that we're trying to sell a mobile website to. They're aggravating and frustrating their potential client, and this deals with their new client acquisition. And it is a statistical fact that almost 40% of all people that do a search and get frustrated by pulling up a traditional website on their mobile phone, X out and go on to do more searching. It's also a fact that if somebody contacts a small or local business through a search online, that better than half of those follow up with an actual purchase. I mean, these are real statistics that you can find by searching Google, right? So let's get back to what the problem is. The problem is Google has a completely different search engine that's mobile-centric. It's meant for mobile devices. Google realizes that people are getting frustrated when they're bringing up traditional websites that they can't read on their smartphone. And now that almost 70% of all local searches are performed on a smartphone, it would seem that you would want to feed that market what it desires. So that's number one. The second problem is Google now already is attempting to bring up mobile websites when they return search results. The problem is almost nobody has a mobile website. So Google does their very next default, which is to bring up those sites that are the most mobile friendly. They load up quickly, they come on your screen almost immediately, they're not heavy with photos or videos, and that makes that website more mobile friendly. But in an ultimate sense, Google is going to a complete mobile platform for those searching on a mobile phone or a tablet, and ultimately, as more businesses start building mobile websites, real mobile websites, not shrinking down theirs, then those are the results you're going to find when you search on your smartphone. Now, an example of what a menu looks like on a smartphone would be something like this. Now, you can also go to our website, proscriptmedia.com, and we show you examples of what a traditional website looks in a smartphone, as well as what a real mobile website looks like in a smartphone. So as you can see, I have a series of tabs or menu items, and the purpose of this, if this was a restaurant experience, as an example, I can click a button and click to call the restaurant. Great. Maybe the next button would be location, GPS directions to get from here to the restaurant's location. Maybe my next tab would be a menu tab, which will take me to their menu items. And if I hit menu tab, maybe then it takes me to 4 additional tabs: appetizers, soup, pasta, poultry, meat, what have you. The point to all of this is we're no longer needing to scroll all around to find what we desire, which tends to be a frustrating experience. I hit a tab, I get another tab. I hit the tab, I get the information I want. This is what makes mobile websites so powerful and so important. So we're beginning to create what the problem is for most businesses out in the marketplace. Not only are they missing an opportunity because they don't have a mobile website, and Google now has a mobile search engine. And another item I wanted to point out, which I know you've probably heard me say before, when you do a search, and it can be for anything, on your smartphone or tablet, if you scroll all the way to the bottom, you'll notice it says Google Mobile. And you can go back and forth between Google Mobile and Google Classic. And another very important fact that you need to understand is when you go back and forth between mobile and classic, the search results for the same exact search are different in the mobile version than they are in the classic or traditional version. So there is no question, the facts are very clear that Google is going to a mobile platform. It's looking to bring up websites that are mobile friendly, and ultimately it wants to bring up mobile websites. So therein lies the problem. We're talking about multiple issues. One is client retention. When a client goes to your web address, your UL, whether you're advertising that web address in offline marketing, newspaper, Valpak, a flyer, whatever it may be, if somebody is bringing that up on their mobile phone and they're going to a traditional website, there's a likelihood, 25% of the time, that you've just lost a client. And it's not only new client acquisition that we're concerned about, or that or any businessman should be concerned about. I'm concerned about new client acquisition and making that experience for my potential new client to be as fluid and as smooth as I can possibly make it to have them call me. I'm also concerned with client retention, with what it takes to obtain a new client, both in advertising and marketing cost, communication with that potential new client, to potentially lose them because I'm not giving them the experience that they want would be quite foolish. Now, I tell a business owner, for as inexpensive as these mobile websites are, they bring a tremendous value to the table. And again, whether that's through new client acquisition or client retainage. And for what we charge for a mobile website and the monthly fee to host it, manage the updates, because every time a new smart device is developed, we need to change and update the mobile website to be able to work on that particular device. And of course, we pay for the charge, the fee, for the UL or the web address. So our monthly fee covers the hosting, the UL fee, URL fee, the updating for the code, and any updates that the client may wish to make rather. As an example, if they're a restaurant and they want to have different promotions once a week, different coupons, not an issue. They're allowed to make up to 4 or 5 changes per month. We're very amenable. I don't think we've ever rejected a client's request to make a change. Of course, if they called in 6 times a day, this potentially would be an issue. So we've now created what the problem is. We're explaining what the solution is. And by doing that, we're also identifying the benefit of what we have and what we bring to the client in the way of a solution. And the benefits are both new client acquisition, client retainage, and making the overall experience that much more pleasant. Now, I'll give you another example. If your client is advertising, whether it's on Craigslist or Backpage or any directories that they may be online with, anytime somebody clicks that UL and they go to the proprietor's main website, if they're doing it from a smartphone, they've just frustrated a potential client. When somebody clicks on abccompany.com, if we've built them a mobile website and they're searching from a mobile device, it will automatically bring up the mobile website. So we understand what the problem is. We understand that the market has evolved very, very quickly. At ProScript, we like to say the future is now. The speed in which technology has and will continue to change and evolve, it is critical that business owners stay up to date with what they're offering their potential and existing clients. We understand the problem, we understand the solution, and we understand the benefits and the value that this will bring to your potential clients. There is no question at all, that a mobile website is really worth its weight in gold, if you will. At the end of the day, I tell clients this mobile website will more than pay for itself time and time and over again. And that's a fact. as I mentioned, and keep in mind, when you're on a mobile website, we do give the client the option to go either mobile or classic. But of course, if they're on a mobile device, it's going to automatically default and bring up the mobile website. But we do allow them to go to a traditional website if they so desire. So again, just to summarize, it is very important that we establish a high level of trust with our potential client. Clients do business with people that they trust and they like. So the like relationship we develop at the front end of our interaction with the client, the trust that we develop by building the building blocks of trust to get to the ultimate trust to secure a sale, are critical elements. And then of course we have to create and explain what the problem is and the solution and the benefits that we bring to the table. And if you do that, you stand a very good chance at closing a high number of potential prospects and turning them into a ProScript Media client. And upon converting them into a ProScript Media client, you now have the opportunity to go back and present a level 2 sale, which I'll get into in a subsequent video. And please also view our video on closing techniques and how to best box and close a potential client. Again, my name is Alan Palange with ProScript Media and Advertising. I am so happy that you joined me on this video, and I hope that you have found it of use. Thank you.